This season, there will undoubtedly be a ton of attention on the Browns, and a bulk of that attention will be placed on guys like Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham, Myles Garrett, and Jarvis Landry. Guys who have earned that attention because their play and their profile off the field has put them on first name basis with a lot of people who watch NFL football. And it makes sense that those four will represent this team because Jarvis and Baker would be more of the vocal side, the rah-rah guys, and Odell and Myles will be the guys who are just freakishly athletic and can do things on a football field that you have never seen before. Behind all these spotlights and star power, there is a guy who has the athletic ability to easily be one of the best players in his position and is being put in position to do that. And that guy is David Njoku. David Njoku could have a huge year this year and become a star in the NFL. And there are a lot of factors on the field and off the field on why that could happen. One of the first factors is that since Gronk retired and since Jimmy Graham just isn't what he used to be, there's kind of a void there for a star tight end to fill, and David Njoku is just the guy for the job. He has the freakish size and physical shape of a guy like Jimmy Graham and Gronkowski, and he has incredible leaping ability that we'll get into later on in this video. The second reason, and the reason why a lot of people become stars in the NFL, is because of fantasy football. And I know fantasy football is silly. I know some people take it too serious, but fantasy football seriously creates stars. And anybody who needs any validation on that claim, just look at how big of a star Josh Gordon became after his breakout 2013 season. He was playing on a 4-12 team, but he was one of the biggest names in the NFL that year because he was killing it in fantasy. And David Njoku is gonna kill it in fantasy this year. First of all, in fantasy football, finding a tight end who's productive and gives you more than like 5 points a week is just hard. There's like 10 of those guys in the NFL, and like 5 of those guys, they change every year. So getting a top tier tight end is hard in the first place. So if one blows up, that's a big deal already in that world. The second thing is that the Browns are going to need Njoku to produce, especially in the red zone, because the Browns wide receivers, the main 3 or 4 that they're going to use, are all shorter guys, with the tallest being Rashard Higgins, who's maybe 6'1", but not the biggest wide receiver that's going to jostle for position in the end zone. So that leaves the burden being on the tight ends, and your best tight end is David Njoku. The good news is that David Njoku's skill set is perfect for those kind of targets because he is freakishly athletic, he is very strong, and he has incredible hops. He jumped a 37.5-inch standing vertical at the combine. You know who jumped 8 inch less than that? Russell Westbrook. Not old Russell Westbrook with knee surgeries, a young, just got out of UCLA, Russell Westbrook. Look up the best Russell Westbrook dunks. Be amazed, and then realize that David Njoku can jump 8 inch higher than that. That is how freakishly athletic he is at his weight, and he's 6'5", 240 with those kind of freakish hops. So if he puts together good route running with his strength, with his leaping ability, he is almost an unstoppable threat in the end zone, which is going to be important because guys like Jarvis and Odell, while they're going to be able to be factors in the red zone, are just more limited in what their skill set allows them to do in those situations. So the Browns are really going to rely on David Njoku to come up huge in those situations. And if he comes up huge in the red zone, that means he's going to score a good chunk of touchdowns, which means a lot of fantasy points, which means a lot of people are going to be talking about how great David Njoku is. Since he's so athletic and he has good enough foot speed to be spread out wide, he's going to be a threat down the field. So he's going to get good chunks of yards, good chunk plays. These are things that we saw last year. And I think one of the pieces to David Njoku's game that he needed to develop was his physicality. And I think he really started to show signs of growing that in the last 4 weeks of last season, where if you look, he was willing to bully for the ball, especially in that game against Baltimore. He was willing to bully people to get that ball and use his hops to just jump over people. And I think that's the sign. That's the thing that we need from David Njoku. If he can put 16 games together of that, the Browns are going to be in a great position offensively, and David Njoku will absolutely become a star. Look at the matchup nightmare that David Njoku might create for a Browns opponent. Now, just imagine this. you have Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt or even Duke Johnson in the backfield. So a credible threat to go out wide from the running back position in the backfield. You have Jarvis Landry, you have Odell Beckham. So Odell Beckham is somebody that you're going to have to double cover. Jarvis Landry is somebody that you can't just throw anybody at. He is a very good wide receiver. Then if you really want to make things a little bit more difficult on the other team, you could throw Antonio Callaway there, who you're going to have to respect because he's just so fast. I think he's like the third fastest dude that's been clocked on like a radar gun in the NFL. He's freakishly fast. So you got that out there. And then boom, you pop little David Njoku out wide. And who are you going to put on David Njoku? A linebacker? He will eat any linebacker alive that is not a top 5 coverage linebacker. He will eat them alive and he will kill them for chunk plays throughout the game. And he did that last year. He had a lot of seam plays last year because they were throwing linebackers on him. Just imagine how bad it's going to be when there's a threat like Odell who's going to demand double coverages a lot. So just a lot to work with. David Njoku is going to be a matchup problem for anybody who is attempting to stop this Browns offense. I mean, if you want to see how David Njoku could potentially be used, just look no further than how the Kansas City Chiefs were able to take advantage of all the mismatches they had and use Travis Kelce to his advantage. Now, Travis Kelce was always a good tight end before this season, but his production took a jump to the next level because of the spacing that he was allowed and because of the matchups that he was getting. And if you look at Travis Kelce's highlights for this year, literally it would be like nobody's around him every time he caught the ball because he would be able to obliterate these mismatches, much like a David Njoku could. And Baker Mayfield is also the perfect quarterback as far as skill set for a guy like David Njoku, especially for a tight end like David Njoku, because Baker Mayfield has the tendency to break the pocket and make some improvisational plays. When he does that, a guy with the athletic ability of David Njoku at tight end being that big of a threat, having that wide of a catching radius is going to be a huge factor in where he's going to throw the ball. And if Baker's improvising, I guarantee you he's going to look for David Njoku because he knows if he just has to throw it up and give David a chance, there's a high chance that he could come down with it. So David Njoku is also going to benefit from that and how Baker Mayfield plays the game. And he's also going to benefit from the Browns implementing RPOs, which I guarantee you they're going to have a couple of this year because Baker Mayfield in college was one of the best RPO throwers of all time. Look no further than Mark Andrews' career at Oklahoma to prove that. Mark Andrews benefited greatly for how great Baker was at making those quick snap decisions on RPOs, and it stands to reason that David Njoku will certainly be a beneficiary of that when the Browns start implementing RPO. And that's something they didn't do last year that they're most certainly going to do with a guy like Todd Monken at the helm on offense. And, you know, some of the more off the field stuff, he's a big, very marketable guy with a signature touchdown celebration. Before we summarize why David Njoku is going to be a breakout star, I want to get into a bit of a stat projection for David Njoku. So the stats for David Njoku's second year were better than his rookie year, but not necessarily the numbers that Browns fans are going to be expecting from him next year. He had about 639 yards, 4 touchdowns, and had a 63% catch percentage. So good numbers, an improvement from last year, especially that catch percentage number, 10% up from the year before on more targets, which is more significant. So that is very important for David Njoku. But let's look at what we're going to need from David Njoku to take a step up and become a star player. Now, I assume that this year he's probably going to get about 110 to 120 targets, which is up from about 83 last year. So if David Njoku gets a little bit more targets, probably due to RPOs, probably due to the offense having to feature him more because of double coverage on Odell and Jarvis Landry. So I can easily see David Njoku being schemed for more and more targets throughout the season. If David Njoku is going to take that next step and become a star in this league, he's going to have to up his catch percentage to about 73%. So catch about 73% of those targets, which would be very good. And then he will have and then he can continue to average about 12 yards per reception, which is what he averages right now, roughly. So if he does that, he'll have about 88 receptions, a little bit over 1,000 yards, give or take a few. I mean, if he gets 110 targets, he probably will have just under 1,000 yards, but that's not the barometer here. And he should have about 8 to 10 touchdowns with a possibility to have more, but 8 to 10 is the bar for David Njoku and what we should expect. And if he puts up these numbers, it's going to mean really good things for the Browns. It's going to mean a Pro Bowl berth for David Njoku. It probably means that the Browns are one of the top 2 teams in the AFC and have a bye. If he's able to produce at this level, along with Jarvis and Odell producing at their regular levels, this will mean great things for the offense. This will mean they have a very dynamic offense. So this is what you want to look for if you're a Browns fan from David Njoku. And this is why I think David Njoku is going to break out. It is the perfect combination of athletic talent, athletic ability, and freakish ability with opportunity, with situation. I mean, he has the perfect opportunity to blow up. He has so much talent around him that he's going to be the guy that's going to be left with the mismatch. And he is in a perfect situation with a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, who is going to be able to maximize his talents, and with a coach like Todd Monken, who's going to implement RPOs into a system, which David Njoku would be literally perfect for. It is a perfect situation for David Njoku to break out, and that is why I expect David Njoku to become one of the top tight ends in the NFL and make the Browns cap situation even that much harder, because remember, when Myles Garrett comes up, so does David Njoku. So there's going to have to be a lot of money thrown around before we even get to think about Baker Mayfield. So that is it for this week's video. Tell me what you think in the comment section down below. Do you think David Njoku is going to have a breakout year? Or do you think that role is more reserved for somebody like Antonio Callaway? Let me know in the comment section down below. I love to hear you guys' response. And if you like this video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and ding the notification bell so you can know when I upload, and I upload 3 times a day. And if you have a buck or two to spare, please consider joining the Patreon and having your name on the bottom of this scrolling bar at the bottom of this video. But that is it for this week's episode. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.